All right, we are back. Chris Mannix, Sergio Mora. He's the fighter. I'm the writer. Sergio, it is officially 2026. Happy New Year to you, my friend. Are you a New Year's resolution guy?
I am. I actually am. But it's the opposite. It's the antithesis of most of you, actually. You know, you probably want to save money, lose weight, you know, just travel more. I want to do the opposite. I want to gain weight. I want to gain muscle. You know, so I want to hit 199, not 200. 200 sounds fat. So I want to reach 199. So I want to indulge more. And I want to actually travel and spend more money. Get back to my old ways. You know, I used to squander a lot of money on traveling, on fine food, fine restaurants. But hanging out with Todd Grisham, it's all Outback Steakhouse and, you know, Hooters. So I just want to get back to the good things in life.
So your New Year's resolution, if I'm hearing you correctly, is to indulge more and spend more money.
And get fatter.
And get fatter.
Yeah, pretty much.
Those are unique resolutions.
Well, not bigger. Yeah, okay. I want to get bigger. But yeah, well, how about yours?
I've got some general professional resolutions, but my biggest resolution for 2026 after having a child is to keep him alive.
Yeah.
Truly, like to keep him alive. Like every day is, you know, basically a battle to keep him alive.
Damn, Mannix, you just turned this morbid. All right.
I'm just saying, I mean, he's not sick or like that.
You could easily say, like, I want to be a good father, raise a great kid. And
I don't know. They do a bunch of different things. The kid's swinging his head left and right. You're afraid he's going to hit something,
Look, man,
fall down. I want to keep the damn kid alive.
It's real easy. You just got to wrap him into a little taco where he can't scratch his face, where he can't use his arms. What do you call that, where you bundle them up?
Oh, swaddle.
You swaddle them little suckers, and you put the
We're not a swaddling family.
You put that little rubber boob in his mouth. He's going to be fine the entire time. Yes. Yeah, the pacifier and swaddle him. Yeah, you're going to be just fine, Mannix.
Oh, it's a little more.
And a baby camera.
Yeah, we just bought a baby camera. That's a new one.
Yeah, you'll be fine.
Investment in the family.
And the dad weight looks good on you, by the way.
I don't have dad weight. I've lost like 25 pounds in the last 3 months.
You still look terrible.
Okay. All right. A lot to get into on this episode. We're going to use this show to hand out our year-end awards and look ahead to some of the future awards. Get out the crystal ball, look ahead to the future awards in 2026. We should acknowledge right off the top, Sergio, the tragedy that happened over in Africa this past week with Anthony Joshua involved in what was a horrific car accident, the death of two close friends of his, 2 members of his team. We understand through Matchroom that Anthony Joshua is in stable condition, that his injuries are relatively minor, but I'm sure there's a lot that comes with a tragedy like that, some mental scarring that I'm sure is going to be with AJ for a long time. But we're deeply sorry for what happened over there, and we feel to the families of the people that died, to AJ's friends and family, we certainly send our best wishes out to all of them. Yeah,
AJ's going to have to be a fighter and a champion come this new year because he wants to end out the year strong, and I'm sure this is going to be a mental burden, another hurdle for him to actually go over with some close friends dying. And yeah, man, that's part of being a fighter, man, just picking yourself up. But God bless him and his family and all the people that passed over there in Nigeria.
Yeah, boxing should be the last thing on his mind, and I'm sure it is. There'll be plenty of time to have that discussion down the line. All right, our year-end awards, Sergio. Let's start with the Fighter of the Year, which we touched on in a recent podcast, which right now, according to most people, and probably according to you and me, is kind of a 2-horse race with 2 of the biggest names in boxing, 2 pound-for-pound stars sitting at the top. Who is Sergio Mora's Fighter of the Year?
It's not yours or everyone else's. I, as a fighter, have to really respect what this man has done. Fought 4 times in 1 year. Naoya Inoue, the monster. I think the monster had a monster year because not only has he been active defending all those belts, but he's doing it on the highest level. I mean, he's undisputed, and he's still being active, which is a rarity in boxing. Normally, when you have all those belts, dealing with all those sanctioning bodies and #1 contenders, they're pulling you in so many different ways. But this incredible fighter is doing it on the biggest stage possible. 4-0, 2 knockouts. Everyone that they put in front of him, he dominates. He doesn't struggle with them. He gets dropped, he comes back and knocks out the guys, but he wins in convincing fashion. He's still at the top of his game. And I know Bud Crawford's like the favorite for everybody, maybe even Usyk. They're all fighting for undisputed, but for me, activity matters as a fighter, and the fact that he's willing to put it all on the line, he's my fighter of the year. Naoya, Inoue.
It's not Usyk. I mean, Usyk had that one good win over Daniel Dubois, but it was a repeat of what happened the first time around against Daniel Dubois. I have no problem with Inoue being your fighter of the year. The argument I would make against Inoue, it's really only an argument in favor of Terence Crawford, is that the 4 fights that Inoue fought in 2025, he was a heavy favorite in all of them. His opening fight against Kim, minus 5,000 favorite, according to DraftKings at one point. Cardenas, minus 5,000 favorite coming into that fight. Hold on, I'm not saying that, but he was a huge favorite coming in. MJ Akhmadaliev, he was around minus 1,000. That was the closest of the odds going into these 4 fights. And then his most recent fight against Alan Picasso, he came in right around minus 3,500 for that fight. So he was an enormous favorite in those fights. Terence Crawford only fought once, but he fought as an underdog, and he fought the biggest star in North American boxing. And he fought in a weight class that he was completely unfamiliar with. Terence Crawford was coming up 2 weight classes for that fight against Canelo Alvarez. Really, though, he was coming up 3. He had 1 fight against Israel Madrimov at 154. Didn't look great in that fight. Jumps to 168 against Canelo. And I know it's not peak Canelo. Canelo didn't look great against William School the last time out. But Canelo at that point was the undisputed 168-pound champion. Was unequivocally the best 168-pounder in the world. And Terence Crawford beat him cleanly. I understand 4 against 1, that's tough. That 1 win has to be special, but I think that Crawford win was special enough for him to get fighter of the year.
And you're not wrong. Mannix, but you're speaking as a reporter, as a writer, as an outside looking in. You're not speaking as a fighter. You didn't have to go to 4 different camps, championship camps. You didn't have to endure all that. You didn't have to put your body through all that. You know, Inoue is in his early 30s, 31, I believe. But those small fighters, they don't last that long. They fight really hard. They spar really hard. They fight really hard, and that's why they have a shorter career. The fact that he was able to do it on the highest level, it's not his fault that there's not another big name that he has to defend against. But he's doing it against Picasso, undefeated. Akhmadaliev, who was an incredible amateur, incredible professional. He had power, he had movement, and he's doing it against fighters that are #1 contenders. I'm happy with that. Activity matters, knockouts matter, and the fact that he's still doing it for all the belts, not letting one go, still called the undisputed, undefeated champion. That means a lot. So as a fighter, I respect that over the one time, that great performance by Crawford. You're not wrong, and I think as a fighter, I'm not wrong, but it's all what you like.
I don't think you're wrong either, and you make a great point about the camps having to go in. I mean, really, how much time off did Naoya Inoue take in 2025? A few weeks after each fight, getting right back into camp, and as you well know, you train like you're going to war for these fights, even if you are a minus 5,000 favorite. And Inoue does get credit for getting off the deck against Cardenas. He does get credit for completely blowing out MJ Akhmadaliev, who a lot of people believe was going to be his toughest test. I just think Crawford's win was special. I think everything about that performance was outstanding. And look, if Inoue had fought one guy where the odds were closer of those 4, then maybe I'd have a different opinion, but I'd just give the slightest edge to Terence Crawford because of that. All right, something we're going to do with these categories is not only are we going to name our respective award winner, but we are going to also name who we think is going to win that award in 2026. So I'll start with you here. Who is your favorite? Who do you think this time next year, when we're sitting here in this studio doing this show, and you're weighing 225 pounds, who is the 2026 Fighter of the Year?
I'm hoping it's Virgil Ortiz. I'm hoping it's someone young and fresh, or Boots Ennis, one of those guys, but one of them they have to fight in order to get this award. But they're right there at the cusp of being not only a champion, well, for Virgil Ortiz to be a champion and to be #1, but to carry the sport, to be the next one in line, along with Benavidez and a lot of greats out there. You know, once Canelo passes the torch, if he hasn't already. Virgil Ortiz, I think he is the next pay-per-view star. Not only because he's Mexican-American, but he's a knockout puncher. He's always going for the knockout. He fights anyone they put in front of him. Fans love that. they don't like the fact that he takes a tune-up fight. They don't like the fact that fighters on that level will be able to fight, a guy that's not supposed to be in the ring with him. Virgil Ortiz continue fighting the best, going for the knockout. I think he's going to be the next in line and be the next star on the pound for pound list.
Yeah, I like that. I mean, you're sort of predicting Virgil beats Boots with that, if you're calling him fighter of the year.
No, whoever wins that fight is the next one in line.
It's not a bad pick because if that fight happens, and I'm cautiously optimistic that we are going to get that fight in March. Whoever wins that fight will also have a springboard to some big ones. There's a Fedora fight out there potentially for the winner. There is a Xander Zayas fight if Xander Zayas comes away from his fight in January as the unified champion. So there's opportunity there. My pick, though, is Shakur Stevenson. Shakur Stevenson, end of January, has a huge fight already set. He's taken on Teofimo Lopez, trying to become a 4-division world champion. He's already a pretty heavy favorite going into that fight, and I can see why. I think Shakur's style will give Teofimo some problems. If Shakur can beat Teofimo and become a world champion at 140, in addition to being a world champion at 135, there are a lot of doors open for him. Like, he can go back to 135, try to unify that division against some guys that are out there. I mean, Andy Cruz, Murataya, the winner of that fight, could be interesting. Hell, maybe Gervonta gets back in the ring.
I doubt that.
I doubt that too, but maybe he decides in 2026. And if Shakur beats Teofimo, he's an even bigger name at that point. So Shakur has got multiple weight classes that he can navigate. He has the support of Turki Al-Sheikh, so he's got some bankroll behind him, having fought in Saudi Arabia, having fought here in the U.S. on these ring cards. There's, I think, a lot of opportunity across multiple weight classes. And maybe it's not just 2. Like, we've heard Shakur and Ryan Garcia going at it. We have seen Shakur and Conor Benn going at it. Like, there are some big fights, some big events that could be available to Shakur Stevenson if he wins this fight with Teofimo. I think he's primed for a big year. I think he's going to be the fighter of the year in 2026.
You won't be wrong, but it depends how he wins, if he wins, or if he beats Teofimo Lopez. Because if he goes in there and stinks it up, starts running, and he doesn't want to engage, people are not going to want to invest in that, especially, giving him the big dates. What he did with Zepeda, that's what he needs to do against Teofimo. Not necessarily a knockout, just dominate, take chances, put more power into your punches, keep the fight in the middle of the ring. Don't be worried about being against the ropes, and pivoting out once you get your shots in. Then I could see Shakur doing exactly what Floyd Mayweather did. He went from being, Mayweather did the star way. He was knocking out guys, and then he went to the decisions. Shakur could flip it. He could be winning the decisions and start turning into a more, maybe not a power puncher, but a guy that's actually going for stoppages. You don't have to get knockouts where they stay on the floor. Just drop them. Make the referee stop it. Stop them on their feet against the ropes. It doesn't matter. It goes down as a technical TKO victory. If Shakur can start doing that or dominating guys, dropping guys, I could totally see him being the next pay-per-view star.
Yeah,
Too many names to match him up, so that's why I say pay-per-view.
2 weight classes. Like if Oshaki Foster comes up to 135, that could be a big fight after Foster beat Fulton. There's just a bunch of guys out there that he could fight, and the only thing that would potentially derail him is if his hands become a problem once again. But look, he just fought. Was it over the summer? Beat Zepeda. Now he's back in January against Teofimo. No reason we can't see him again next summer. And then maybe the end of the year, he gets 3 fights in. He gets 3 big wins in 2026. It's a wrap.
Hey,
he's going to win.
Listen, I just compared him to Mayweather Jr., another guy that had issues with his hands.
Yeah.
So, there's a lot of similarities with Shakur and Mayweather Jr. going forward. The fact that there's so many names in that weight division, that's the reason I think Shakur can be a star, because it just doesn't take one fighter. It takes 2 to actually sell an event, to really push the market. And Shakur has been doing it for a long time, since he was in the lighter weight divisions, but he needs a dancing partner, and there's a lot of them at 140.
Tons of them. 135, 140, maybe 147. Big year for Shakur Stevenson. All right, so that is our male fighter of the year. But we're also going to do the women's side. There's a lot of great women's boxers active right now. There's a competitive field, I think, in women's boxing. There isn't a clear-cut winner, I think, for women's fighter of the year. A lot of really good candidates, but no clear-cut winner. So give me your 2025 Women's Fighter of the Year.
And because there wasn't a clear-cut winner, I'm going to go with somebody that had a draw, but she still looked good and she's still evolving. I like Caroline Dubois. Dubois has the same championship pedigree that her brother has, and Danny Dubois. I just love the way she puts combinations together. In women's boxing, you don't really see a high knockout ratio. She has one. She has good technique. She has good power. She goes for the stoppages. I think women's boxing has really stepped up. They got a late start, and I think nowadays you're seeing them more and more on the top slots. With the bigger names, thanks to Amanda Serrano and Katie Taylor and the greats that have come before them. But they're fighting extra rounds now, 3-minute rounds. You see what Alicia Baumgartner's doing. You see the attention they're getting inside and outside the ring. You see Netflix putting them on. So look, women's boxing is on top, and I think Caroline Dubois had an incredible platform to really showcase herself in this last fight. And I think she passed the test, maybe stole the show in this last Netflix fight, even though she wasn't on the main card. She was right below it, but she still looked good. I really like Caroline Dubois going forward.
Yeah, I like Dubois. She was 2-0-1 in 2025. Probably should have been 3-0. There was a cut that stopped the first fight in January. To me, she's more of a candidate next year because there are some big fights out there for her. She could get Alicia Baumgartner to move up to 130 or to 135 and fight her. She could move up herself. Chantal Cameron is out there. That's a big fight over in the UK and Ireland or wherever you want to put it. So I look at her more in terms of 2026. 2025, I lean towards Michaela Mayer. Now, Michaela Mayer is a member of the old guard, right? A former U.S. Olympian, been a world champion in multiple weight classes. I thought she had an outstanding year. She starts the year out by winning that rematch against Sandy Ryan. Now, she had won the first fight, but there was some controversy there, the whole who threw the damn can of paint, some issues with her and her former trainer. Everybody said the second time would be different. Well, the second time, Michaela went out and dominated, won much cleaner than she did the first time around. After that, she moves up in weight to 154 pounds, goes to Canada, the backyard of Mary Spencer, and wins a couple of titles fighting Mary, or 3 times, I guess, fighting Mary Spencer. So she defended her welterweight title, and then she moved to 154 to win 3 versions of the junior middleweight title. So she's sitting on the cusp of becoming an undisputed champion, really in multiple weight classes, because Lauren Price has 3 of the belts at 147. Mayer's got 3 belts at 154. I thought she really breathed life back into her career in 2025 and did more than any other woman out there in terms of accomplishment.
And it's because she's able to jump weight classes because she has the height, she has the wide shoulders. In order for women to really get that respect, they have to jump weight classes. Look at what Amanda Serrano did in so many, 7 divisions. Clarissa Shields going all the way to heavyweight. So in order to be great, you have to jump classes, especially in women's boxing when there's not a lot. It's a small field of talent, because it's a growing sport, women's boxing. But they're evolving fast, and I think she has that American, appeal. So if Caroline Dubois has the UK unlock, I could see Michaela Mayer, who was an Olympian for the United States, who was a world champion in multiple weight classes, who can still possibly go higher because, like I said, she carries that weight really nicely.
I think she'd tell you probably not. I think she'd tell you 154 is probably her limit.
For the money, you never know. She might be able to go higher. Yeah, I could see that. And she's good on the camera. Yeah. She's always in front of the camera doing commentating. She's excellent at that. So, yeah, she can carry the sport in 2 ways. That's a good one as well.
Yeah, she had a couple of losses at the midway point of her career that could have been huge setbacks for her. Instead, she rebuilt her career, got into big fights, won big fights, and now I think is coming off the best year of any woman in boxing. All right, for 2026, who do you think is going to be the Women's Fighter of the Year?
Man, I really can't tell you. It has to be a Brit. It has to be a Brit.
How about this? I'll go first on this one. I'll give you a second to gather your thoughts over there in the chair. I'm going to go with Amanda Serrano. Amanda Serrano is coming back.
I'm already going to say no.
All right. Well, Amanda Serrano is coming back on DAZN on January 3rd. So she's getting her first fight in 2026, which sets her up for 3, maybe even 4 fights if she can get it in. She has the financial backing of Jake Paul and MVP. So we know she's going to get out there. We know she's going to headline. Maybe it's in New York. Maybe it's in Puerto Rico. Maybe she's a co-main on whenever Jake Paul gets back into the ring. But she's going to get opportunity and she's going to get exposure. And she is one of the money women in boxing. So you can lure people across different weight classes. And I say this because I look at where Amanda Serrano is at 126. And I look up and I say, well, Alicia Baumgartner's there as the unified champion at 130 pounds. If Alicia doesn't want to move up to 135, she could wait for Amanda to move up, and Amanda's moved up beyond that several times, to fight her for the unified championship at 130. If I look down, you've got Ellie Scotney, who is part of the MVP stable, who is now the unified champion at 122, will soon, or could soon, be undefeated at 122. What if Scotney says, you know what? I want to fight Amanda Serrano at 126. Amanda Serrano has some great in-house opportunities, fights that are very easy to make because a lot of these women fighters are with MVP. And if she wants to finish the year with a little bit of a grudge match, how about Skye Nicholson? Skye Nicholson down at 122, just won an interim title at 122, looking for her own opportunities at 122. That's a fight that could happen between Amanda and Skye maybe towards the end of the year. I think there are some huge, huge fights for Amanda Serrano in 2026, and she's getting off to a fast start, getting her first fight in the first couple of days of the year.
Skye was the one I was thinking about. She has, just like Michaela Mayer, she has everything going for her as far as the promotion, the hooks, the looks, the fact that she does good on camera. She's a broadcaster. She's a fighter. You have to have a little bit of everything. And she has the height and the wide shoulders in order for her to fluctuate higher in weight as well. That's always important, skipping weight divisions. But I think Amanda Serrano, she's already spilled too much blood. She's already, at the age where yes, it took her this long to get the respect, but she's already been through too many physical fights. Too much blood has been shed, too many scars, too many wars. So I don't think she can carry that peak level. I mean, she's still making peak money, and that's because of MVP and Jake Paul and Netflix and everyone else. So great for her because she deserves it. But as far as carrying the sport on her back, especially women's boxing, when there's so much talent, young talent, that's hungry to do what she just did, and even faster and earlier in their career, I just think, there's too much competition. I don't think Serrano could do it.
Oh man, it's all about the competition. Like, I would make her a favorite if Scotney fought her. I don't know what happens in a Baumgartner fight. That would definitely be a 12 3-minute rounds type of fight. Both those women want to fight 12 3-minute rounds, so that could be intriguing with both women having power. I just think she's set up really nicely to have a big year in 2026. All right, trainer of the year. I don't think this is a very competitive field, Sergio, so I'm going to start with you and see if you've got a different name than I do.
I'm pretty sure it's the same name, Robert Garcia. Yeah. Robert Garcia, I've followed Robert Garcia since he was a fighter. He was a world champion. I remember back in the late 90s when he was in the corner of Fernando Vargas and he was, helping his little brother, Mikey Garcia, be a great as well. Robert Garcia has the mind of a fighter, but he's already grown into an all-time great Hall of Fame trainer. And the stable that he has, it's incredible. I mean, the former champions that he has, the young fighters that he has busy, like Bam Rodriguez, Virgil Ortiz, Murataya. This is the next crop, that it's going to do something great. He just has the formula to success. Robert Garcia, it seems like every year we're talking about him being something great, and anytime you think of great trainers, he's headed in the same way that Freddie Roach is. He's going to be like the Mexican Freddie Roach in Southern California pretty soon. I think that's the ceiling that Robert Garcia brings to the table. So that's my trainer of the year.
Yeah, and you look at his success rate this year, and it's been outstanding. I mean, Robert Garcia is the head trainer for Bam Rodriguez. Bam added a couple more titles to his collection with big wins in 2025. Virgil Ortiz goes over to Saudi Arabia, beats Israel Madrimov, comes back to the U.S., knocks out Erickson Lubin in the second round. And Robert's stable is deep with mid-level guys, young guys, most of which had success. Oscar Duarte got a couple of wins in 2025. There's a bunch of guys there that had great years. To me, this award was, and I've got Robert winning as well. He is my 2025 Trainer of the Year. it was competitive at the midway point. Like the midway point, I thought Bozy Ennis was going to win it. That was when Boots Ennis beat Stanionis. Andy Cruz was surging, and look, Bozy didn't lose towards the end, but we didn't see Andy Cruz as active. He's going to fight in January. Boots, good win, I guess, in that his debut at 154, but I'm not sure that had anything to do with training in that fight. I thought Roberts surged towards the end with Bam, beating Pum Martinez over in Saudi Arabia, with Virgil beating Erickson Lubin. I thought he's clearly the winner. Some other good trainers out there. Bomac, I thought, had a good year. Obviously, training Terrence Crawford for that fight he had with Canelo Alvarez. Manny Robles, I thought, had a good year as well. I think was he in what's the kid that beat Caleb Plant? I'm blanking right now.
Resendez.
Resendez. I think he was working that corner there. So good year, but I thought Robert Garcia ran away with it. 2026, I'll go first on this one. I think Bozy Ennis is going to get it. This is where I favor Bozy Ennis in 2026. Boots is going to fight Virgil. He has to beat Virgil, obviously. But if Boots beats Virgil, then he's off to the races. Before then, you've got Cruz against Murataya. Andy Cruz going for his first world title of his professional career. 6 fights in. Only 6 pro fights to this point. He's going to fight a established pro in Murataya. I think that would be a feather in the cap of Bozy Ennis. He's also got Jack Catterall now. And Jack Catterall is kind of floating between 140 and 147, looking for a world title opportunity. I think he could win one. So with those 3 guys alone, I think you've got an opportunity to have world-level, high-level fights, winnable fights. And if Bozy Ennis' guys, kind of sweep the field, I think he's going to win 2026 Trainer of the Year.
I think next year is Ben Davison. He's this close to winning Trainer of the Year. He's been there with the biggest names. He has some solid names, some up-and-coming names. He's always just missing that because it seems like he hasn't been in the game long enough internationally. He's a young guy, but anytime you hear him in the corner, everything he spits in that 1 minute neutral corner break, he says the right things. His fighters believe in him. They listen to his instructions. He's an incredible trainer, and it's a shame that his age and his looks, the fact that he looks so young, that he's not as respected worldwide as he should be, because I think he's a top trainer, man. I think he's the future. Ben Davison.
He's become something of a heavyweight whisperer with some of the names he has there. Fabio Wardley had a terrific year, going from the quote-unquote white-collar fighter that he was coming up the ranks to winning a world title. He's a world champion with Usyk dropping that belt. Moses Talon, of course, everybody thinks is the next big thing in boxing. If those 2 guys alone have big years, I think you're right. I think Ben Davison will have a good run on. All right, let's talk about the other side of it, some of the fights that were out there. Give me your fight of the year for 2026. Some great fights, or 2025, I should say, this past year. What was the Sergio Mora 2025 fight of the year?
Well, if you want to put the grand scale of things, the meaning of it, the history of it, the fact that it panned out, it has to be Eubank versus Benn. Chris Eubank Jr. and Conor Benn, that first fight was incredible. Not only because of the history that their fathers had, but the fact that they were able to duplicate something great on their own. They made their own lane. That Benn name, that Eubank name, the juniors were able to carry it on their shoulders and do something great, filling out a stadium and really panning out, man. I mean, from beginning to end, Conor Benn came out aggressively trying to go for the knockout. Eubank kind of was fighting him off. Then he came back and used his veteran skills, using that jab, the uppercut, was able to make it more of a boxing match instead of a war that Benn wanted it. It had everything you wanted, and we got a rematch. Of course, we didn't get the same type of fight because that's what happens when you have familiarity, But I think overall, the fact that all eyes was in that stadium, what was it?
Tottenham Hotspur.
There you go. My Latin tongue can't say that. But that stadium right there, incredible. And the UK fans shelled out money for it. They showed up. They were rabid, and the world was watching. That has to be my fight of the year.
Yeah, I mean, that was an incredible event. The pageantry, the history between the 2 fathers, the moment where Chris Eubank Sr. walked out with Junior, the fact the fight itself was electric, Eubank hanging on to win a decision despite Conor Benn surging at the end, Conor Benn winning in defeat. I mean, there's so much that I liked about that fight. I don't have a problem with it. I lean, though, more towards what I thought was the most significant win of 2025, and that was Dmitry Bivol over Artur Beterbiev, which feels like it was a lifetime ago because that took place, back in February. But that was such a huge rematch. Artur Beterbiev got the best of Bivol in the first fight. They come back just months later, and if you remember, the first half of that fight, we're like, wow, Beterbiev might knock Bivol out. Beterbiev is starting fast. We never see Artur Beterbiev start fast. And then Dmitry Bivol turned the tables on Artur Beterbiev. It was Dmitry Bivol coming on strong in the second half of that fight, backing Artur Beterbiev up. I mean, that was such a moment. It was for the undisputed championship at light heavyweight, so it was a big deal as well. I thought that was the best fight of 2025.
Pound for pound, skill-wise, that was the best fight because it was the best fight and the best, and it was
2 pound for pound guys at that point, both on the top
and it was for undisputed. So yeah, as far as like all the marbles and as far as like what you're watching, I mean that was if you wanna bring in a new eyes to the sport and say, just watch these two guys. That's the epitome of our sport, what they did. And there were international fighters. Normally, you get to see an American versus another American or someone outside the States. No, this was two guys outside. They're not American and carrying the sport. Incredible.
There were some good fights across the board in 2025. Kenshiro Taraji, his win over Seigo Yuriakui, we got the knockout in the 12th round. That was awesome. Christian Mbili, Lester Martinez made the co-main of that Canelo Alvarez undercard. That was a phenomenal. Canelo Alvarez Crawford undercard. That was a phenomenal fight. So some really good fights.
And on the smaller level, I just want to give a shout out to Sam Noakes and Abdullah Mason. Their fight was fantastic as well. They got next, man, and we know that Sam Noakes is in it for the long haul. So is Abdullah Mason as a young champion at 21 years old. But these are two exciting fighters in exciting fights that they're going to have a bright future. So that's an honorary mention for them.
Yeah, I think down the line, not anytime soon, but down the line, we're likely to see that fight happen again. Let's talk about explosive finishes. Knockout of the year. Some good names and good fights in that category. What was your number one knockout of the year?
Fabio Wardley. Yeah. You can't set it up. It was like a Hollywood movie ending. He was losing every round. I think he knocked out Justice Hoon in the 10th round. He probably lost 9 out of the 10.
He was losing that
He
fight.
was losing, getting outboxed by a better boxer. Hooney was peppering him up. It was Rocky-esque, the fact that Fabio Wardley was able to set him up with that big right hand, and he wasn't able to land anything up until that last round where one punch ended it all. It was Cinderella type ending, and I think that it was a highlight knockout. You could sell it. I would love to see Fabio Wardley continue doing that, continue that momentum. But that knockout, that fight right there, that does it for me in 20.
That was good, and that had stakes to it, right? Like Fabio Wardley was in line for another big fight. Turned out to be Joseph Parker. Down the scorecards, Justice Hooney, this unknown from down under, coming up. Looks like he's outboxing Fabio Wardley, and then pow, Wardley shows he's got that one-punch knockout power. That was really impressive. I'm going to go with the more explosive performance. And maybe the stakes weren't quite as high, even though it was a world title fight. But Brian Norman Jr. going over to Japan and flatlining Jin Sasaki. Now, I kind of saw some of this coming because Jin Sasaki's been one of those fighters that leads with his chin, but Jin Sasaki was, I believe, undefeated at that time. Brian Norman Jr., we didn't know kind of what he was going into that fight. He goes out, flattens Jin Sasaki, explosive. Brian Norman Jr. called it the knockout of the decade. I'm going to call it the knockout of the year, though. Big one for Brian Norman Jr.
It was, and he did it against a Japanese fighter going all the way to Japan to do it for a world championship. So it doesn't get bigger as far as stakes go, and you're not wrong there either. So, yeah, man, that was an exciting fight. If he would have capitalized and came back and beat Haney, it would have been hands down. But it just took a little bit of the shine off Brian Norman because he really disappointed in that fight against Haney. But that knockout, everyone still has it in their mind.
Like everyone saw the real power of Brian Norman Jr. in that fight. All right, I want to ask you to flip it up. Let's change it up a little bit. Fighters we're looking forward to seeing in 2026. Now, I'm not talking about like the Virgil Ortizes or the Bam Rodriguezes or Sebastian Vendora or any of the great fighters over in the UK. I'm talking about the up-and-coming guys, the prospects that you're excited to see what they can do in 2026.
Ernesto Tito Mercado. I mean, he's a Southern California kid. They're doing an incredible job with him. He has that look. He has put a microphone in front of his mouth. We've seen how he was conducting interviews. He's excellent on the microphone, doing Beyond the Bell, but he's a knockout puncher. 18 wins, no losses, 17 knockouts. I mean, that's an incredible high knockout ratio by a kid that just has it. That IT, he has it, the power, the looks, and the promoter. I think he's going to have a huge upcoming year, and I think sky's the limit for him because he can be the next big star in boxing because he checks off all the boxes.
Yeah, he's had some issues with his own health. He's had some issues with the health of his opponents. That's kind of derailed him over the last couple of years. That last fight he had against Moran, that was the second fight in about 2 years with Matchroom. So it's good to see him getting back in the ring, and I like the fact that he fought late in the year, which means he'll be back early in the year. We'll probably see him back the first 2 months, 3 months of 2026. Maybe he gets 3 fights in this year, keep climbing the rankings. And I agree with you. I think the combination of his entertainment power, like he's a very entertaining guy, plus his promotional backing, plus the fact that I think he's going to climb the rankings pretty quickly. We're going to see Tito Mercado in with a big fight and with a big opponent in a big fight very soon. You saw him calling out Shakur Stevenson.
He's not there yet.
Not there yet. But like Rich Hitchens is out there. Keyshawn Davis is out there. There are a lot of guys out there that he could fight in 2026 that would be big fights for Tito Mercado. The guy I'm looking at, though, a little bit further down the depth chart in boxing, Joshua Edwards, who is the former Olympian heavyweight, U.S. Olympian, I should say. Only, I think, 5-0 with 5 knockouts on his resume, so very early in his boxing career. But Sergio, the heavyweight division is dead in the United States. There are no marquee heavyweight names. Hell, we're still talking about 40-year-old Deontay Wilder being in a big fight. 40-year-old Deontay Wilder taking on Alexander Usyk. That's where we are with the U.S. heavyweight scene. Joshua Edwards, we've called some of his fights. He seems to have a lot of the tools you like to be a top-level heavyweight. Good footwork, great power, technique. He's got Ronnie Shields in his corner, so he's got a guy that's built heavyweights before, worked with heavyweights before. I like Joshua Edwards, his upside here. And look, he's probably going to get through 2026 with like 6 wins, 7 wins, none of them of a high-level variety.
Doesn't matter as long as they're knockouts.
Yeah, I think you're going to see him get to double-digit wins in 2026, and we're going to be talking about him going into 2027. And we're going to be talking about him against someone like Mo Zatama, because both those guys are in their early 20s. Both those guys have skill, they've got power, and Tama's way more advanced. Tama is a contender right now. But Joshua Edwards, I think you're going to see him like headline a show maybe in Texas. And you're going to be hear people talking more and more about him because there's nobody else. Who else is out there in the U.S. heavyweight boxing scene that you're really excited about? Who's the name? There isn't one.
There isn't one, just aside from Atama and Edwards, and it's because they carry power and footwork. They're a new class of athletic, power-punching heavyweights. We already got our dose of the 6'5" plus, 250-pound plus heavyweights. These guys just a shade under that. They're going back to the 80s size heavyweights. 6'2", 6'1", but they have good power. They're entertaining. They're muscular. These guys bring footwork to the mix because they have that amateur pedigree, that amateur success. I think Edwards is cut from that cloth, and he has a great right hand, maybe one of the best right hands in heavyweight boxing as far as the young guys come up and coming. Atama, I love his right hook, and he's doing it from that southpaw stance. So Edwards and Atama, I think, are the future, and both of them are from different parts of the world. We always want to see an American heavyweight, carry the crown, but these Brits, they're growing bigger and bigger, stronger and stronger, getting the big opportunities by the bigger promoters and a lot of money invested in them. I think that's the future of heavyweight boxing, is putting up the number one, champion in America against the number one heavyweight champion in the UK, and that's when all eyes are on boxing, and it's a world heavyweight championship.
I'm just looking at the list. Like Jared Anderson, can he be rebuilt to be a world champion guy? I don't know. And all the other guys are old. Like Richard Torres Jr. is kind of more of a bridgerweight to me.
Never thought much of him.
He's not. He's a little bit on the small side. Like all the other guys, Deontay, Andy Ruiz, Jarrell Miller,
Old guard. That's
Michael
old guard.
Hunter, Jermaine Frank.
Old
Like
guard.
this is not.
Yeah.
This is probably the weakest the U.S. heavyweight boxing scene has been ever. That's why Joshua Edwards' presence, I think, is so important for boxing.
And it goes to show to you that, I go back to saying about the Brits doing their thing. I mean, once you cross the 168 mark, the British fighters are some of the best in the world. I mean, they hold the reins at super middleweight for a long time, had some of the best super middleweights, but now they're going to the heavyweights and everything in between there. And they're getting, they're mixing their style. They're not just boxers. They're not just punchers. They're a hybrid of both now. And add the amateur pedigree, the Olympic success, and the trainers behind them, the money that they put behind in their camps. I think they're the future, man. And that's the reason we're talking about them more than American prospects and heavyweights.
The U.S. used to be the home for the great heavyweights. So many great heavyweights came out of the U.S., came out of the Olympic program. Now there's none. But I think Joshua Edwards has the potential to be that next guy. All right, Sergio, I will leave you to your New Year's resolutions, which, again, is eating, drinking, and spending more money.
That's exactly what I'm going to do right now, and smoke more cigars.
Excellent resolution. You're going to be a healthy man in 2026.
Thank God willing.